Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to start the construction of a guitar, and we're going to do everything from selecting the wood to the process of building the guitar all the way through up until right before finishing. That's probably going to be a separate video, but slapping a guitar together, I can't say there's nothing to it, but it's a process, and I'm going to make this video as easy to follow as possible. If you want to build a guitar, here you go. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. All right, so we have a few different tone woods here to select as a body wood. We could choose mahogany, black limba. We have a nice wide piece of ash and a nice wide piece of poplar. These other woods, these are all going to be like top woods and neck woods and stuff like that. This is some zirconia, that could be a neck or fingerboards. Flame maple, that could probably be a top if I resaw it and book match it. So we're going to be building a succubus style guitar, which is super wide. So I think my last guitar that I built was a Manta, and that's also a wide one, and I already used some poplar for that. So we're going to use some of this really nice figured and crazy psychedelic looking ash for our body. All right, so I'm laying out this body here, and I can see a crack that comes up all the way up to here. So we gotta make sure that we don't include that in our body, right? So the first thing you're really gonna need is a template, right, with a center line. So once you have your guitar designed and everything, you'll have a template for it so you know what the body shape is. Oh, and look at that. We're gonna totally miss that crack, so we don't have to worry about cutting. Well, I'm gonna check the other side too and make sure there's no cracks on the other side, but if there isn't, then that's awesome news. Okay, there is a crack on the other side. It comes up to about here, but I think we're still good. Cut off the end because it's gonna have nastiness and little tiny hairline cracks that you can't even see. You know, take 1 inch, 2 inches off at least. And then you're going to take your center line and you're going to line that up with the guitar. You don't have to trace it or anything. I'll just do it just for demonstration purposes. But your center line comes to here. You don't want to put your center line all the way over to the edge because we have to join this to glue the two sides together later. So you want to leave yourself about 1/4 inch or so. Now, when we glue this together, we want the two sides at the bottom to match exactly. So you guys can see that, right? All right, so we're gonna give ourselves a good 1/2 inch past this, so we have some play room. And we're gonna call this body number 1, okay? Now, it's important to lay the guitar out like this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip it this way and do the same thing. That way, when we cut this and put them together, that end grain is going to be exactly the same back here. It's going to look perfect. So that's what we're looking for, right? So now we're going to do the same thing. I'll trace this one too, just for fun. It's going to go away once we plane it down and glue over it and all that. But the center line is here. You do not have to draw this, by the way. I'm just doing this for fun. Okay, so now that we have that laid out, again, we want to go about 1/2 inch past that. Straight across. All right, so that's body number 1. We're going to do 3 guitars. I have the necks over here. So I have 3 necks ready to go as far as being cut. The scarf joints were already cut. And there's a separate video for that. I'll link it right here. There's a jig that I made to do that easier. So now that we have this, we'll go ahead and cut this out. I'm gonna put this back on here, make sure that I got it right. Yeah. So I definitely want to cut it to about here. All right, so first we're gonna cut this end piece off. That's up here. That's the crack right here. And that continues on, but there's no other cracks here in the body, so it's always good to test it to make sure that there isn't any cracks. And if there is, we just shift everything back down this way a bit. All right, now we can cut the body. That's pretty impressive. This is extremely hard wood. This is a battery-powered chop saw here. Okay, here's our two halves. You can see the end grain goes like this. It's gonna match perfectly, right? So that was the whole purpose of cutting it out that specific way. So we have all this extra space, right? And we have some very expensive exotic top wood that we're gonna be putting on here. We don't need, you know, what is this, 12 inches or something? So we're gonna go with just what we need. So we're gonna trim this back. When we glue our exotic wood on there, it'll have a nice clamping surface because we glue it to itself, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. We wanna make sure that both sides are the same exact width, because if one's shorter than the other, and we go to clamp it, then we're gonna have problems, and you'll see what I mean. All right, so we've got these cut down to a manageable size. Now we have to select the top wood, and I have a walnut slab over here that we're gonna cut up and process it to make some awesome tops. All right, here's that walnut slab. It's got some pretty nice figure throughout this part, but down here, it looks nice, but it's not quite as psychedelic as this area. So basically, when I put my template on there, I want to focus on this area here. Now there are a few cracks in there that we're going to try to avoid if we can, but if we get some cracks in the body, it's not that big of a deal because they'll be filled with epoxy anyway, and that's something to expect when you work with, like, you know, highly figured woods and burls and stuff like that. So now when I lay this out, I'm kind of looking, I'm laying it on here, I'm only looking at this half up here, from here up, because the billet is only going to be that wide because we're going to cut it in half and then open it up as a book match. But the thing is, this horn down here is long as well, so we have to take that into consideration. So, like I said, we want to get as much of this stuff in the guitar as we can, but like this big crack, we want to avoid that if we possibly can. So I'm thinking, if we can make a billet like that, like right there, that's a little too, cutting it a little too close. Maybe right there. So here's the center line here, center line. I'm just going to trace it just to take a look and see what kind of grain we have underneath. And yeah, we would have all this stuff here. Like if I take a center line, if I take the center line and trace it, yeah, we would have all that. There's some cracks and stuff back here, but remember the pickup and the bridge are going to be back here as well, so a lot of that will be covered up. We do have one crack that comes all the way down to here. We can fill that with CA glue and epoxy later. All right, I moved things around a bit, and I think I came up with a better one. So like this way there's figure all the way through this back wing, and then even up here into this area here. Because when it was down here, it was kind of plain. At least here we have like knots. So that looks way better. Plus we have moving room up here and down here and up here. So this square here, this rectangle, this is going to be the billet. I'm probably not going to get any other billets out of this slab, but that's okay. I could do like some sick cutting board or something with this half. You know, I'll do something with this, like some kind of maybe little end table or something. But yeah, this was a pretty expensive piece of wood, but not nearly as expensive as the 7 other boards I just ordered today. So they'll be coming in probably next week, and I'm going to save those other boards for the 2 other guitars that I'm going to start. But for now, this is going to be the number 11. This is Succubus number 11, walnut top, ash body. Let's go ahead and cut this out, and then we can start gluing it up. All right, we've got our billet cut out. The thing is, I want my tops to be 3/8 inches thick, okay? 3/8 divided by 4 is 1.5 inches, right? And we're just over 1.5 inches. Problem is, the kerf, the thickness of this resaw blade is about a 32nd of an inch. We have to make 1, 2, 3 cuts in here, 3 32nds minus a ½ inch. It's not going to give us 2 tops, basically. I thought I was going to be able to cut this in half and then cut each of those halves in half. All right, let's take a look and see how this book match is going to look. Oh, that's awesome. Let's get the template on here real quick. All right, so most of the figure is back this way. So I'm going to pull this back as far as I can go. And then we're going to trace it out. All right. That's actually pretty good. That's going to be awesome. Cool. Okay, so the next step is to sand this thing flat through the thickness sander. And when we do that, we want to take the smallest amount off as possible off of these two faces, because the more we take off, the less of a book match it's going to be, because it's going to get further and further away from the grain. So we just want to touch these up, make sure that they're perfectly flat. And then once that is done, I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to take this back to the resaw, and I'm going to take a piece of this nice figured material here, and that's going to be used for the peg head veneer. So the peg head will match the body. All right, here it is. This is after it's been ran through the thickness sander. We have our book match here, and you can see the figure and everything in this guitar. This is going to be pretty darn awesome. The next thing I have to do is I want this awesome figure on the headstock of the guitar as well, right? So I don't want to just have a black headstock. I want to have some nice figured wood. So this piece is thicker than this piece, right? But we don't want to take any more off of the face. Like I said before, I'm going to get, an 1/8 inch piece off the back here, and then this will be the peg head veneer. And now we're going to go ahead and try to figure out where the peg head veneer should come from. So the way that this peg head is shaped, it's kind of like a bird beak or something. And I think it would match good like in here. Look. Something like that. That would be awesome. So it's the same thing. We could trace it out so we know what side we're going to use. Actually, this is going to be a reversed headstock. That'll be awesome. Now we just got to cut this out and keep this with our body and our neck. All right, so we got our body blank joined on one side and one edge, and then we ran it through the planer and then through the thickness sander. The reason I run it through the thickness sander is to give it a little bit of a better gluing surface. So we're going to do a green and black veneer and then walnut on both sides. So I have everything laid out for gluing. So all we got to do now is put glue on both sides. I'm going to do one at a time, of course. We'll glue this side up, and then we'll glue this side up. We'll sandwich the two together, clamp them up, make sure there's a piece of wax paper between the two, and then we let it sit overnight. Tomorrow we unclamp it, fill all our holes with epoxy, we'll cut it out, and then we got to join it. I'll show you that on tomorrow's video. I don't think I'm going to be able to do an entire guitar building video in one video. I don't think it's possible, unless I cut out like a lot of important stuff, which is not the point of these videos. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this up, and you'll see the process. I think I'm going to do black, green, black veneers instead of just green and black. I think it'll look cooler like that. All right, we've got both pieces glued together. That was a lot of glue. In order to make sure that they don't stick to each other, wax paper between both of them. Now we just got to check to make sure that everything is lined up. I like to use these big 6-inch clamps. When I'm putting the clamps on, I'm trying to make sure that I'm on top of the top itself. The top wood ends here, so it wouldn't help to clamp back here. That would not be good. It's looking good so far. I should have had these clamps ready though. You got to work fast, especially when you're doing a bunch of veneers, because you don't want the glue to start setting up before you have your clamps on. See, I felt it pull right there. Oh, we're okay. Yeah. The top here slid over a bit. There we go. Just got to double check it as you go. Things are going to move. Very likely things are going to move. So there we go. I'm not cranking them down yet either. And then once they're all set, we'll crank them down. I probably could have trimmed these veneers back, but I kind of made a last minute decision there with adding the third veneer. I was like, oh, that would look cooler. So I just went over and grabbed them off the shelf. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and tighten them down a little bit more. And we're gonna check again. Make sure nothing's moving around. Make sure the top is even with the front, even with the planed edge of the body, and it is. That's the most important part because that's gonna determine our book match. Yeah, we're good. Let me rip this off of here so you can see. The top is even with the planed edge, the joined edge. The last thing we want is this top to be out, past a little bit, because then when you join it, it's not gonna match up. All right, now we get to crank it down. I like to use a big wrench. You get way more leverage. Way more than you can get with your hands. Plus you don't bust up your hands doing it like this. So anyway, that's pretty much all for today, at least what I'm gonna be doing. So tonight I'll be editing this video, I'll put it up on YouTube. And hopefully it's not too long or boring. I'm gonna try to edit everything out that's not relevant, which is a lot. And then tomorrow I'll film the part where I take this apart, join everything up and join it together. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, let me know. And there's one last thing. This little part right here, I totally forgot. We have to clamp this down as well. And I'm gonna do that with a clamping caul. A clamping caul is just a piece of wood that I'm gonna set there and clamp that down. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, let me know, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.